Welcome everybody to the brand new live with me, Melly as the Story Collector, the Ask Me segment. My plan is to bring these to you live every Tuesday morning, helping you to move through some of the more tricky emotional stuff that we tend to get stuck in. Now, today I want to talk about turning our anger from pain to power, because anger is one of these, it's this hidden emotion that women hide because it is scary, it's tricky. But on top of that, there's this huge social society conditioning that women aren't allowed to be angry, that we're not allowed to express our anger. And I get it to some extent, because anger has a really bad rep. It has this, everybody just sees angry as hurtful, that when it comes out, it is destructive and it hurts those around them. And yes, anger can be like that, but it doesn't have to be like that. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is how we can look at this from a different perspective, how we can look at anger not as this horrible bad thing, but to really embrace it for the gift that it can give us. And at the same time, really diving into what it feels like in your body and how to move through it. So it's going to be fun. I actually really like anger. When I work with women and I find that they're angry, it usually means huge changes are about to happen in their life. So anger to me is a beautiful, beautiful emotion which must be honored. Now, the thing with anger is that it's the guilt of feeling angry that turns it into pain. And like I said, it comes from those societal conditionings that anger is not allowed for women. It's pretty acceptable for men to get angry. Yes, it's never acceptable for anybody who's angry to then lash out at somebody else. But that anger is kind of accepted when it comes to men. And yet if a woman is angry, it is just not accepted at all. There is no space. Nobody is taught as a woman that it's okay to be angry. This is how you express your anger, and this is how you do it safely. So there's this big problem that guilt and shame and all this societal conditioning turns a woman's anger into pain. But it can be turned into power. Excuse me. But it can be turned into power. And we can do that by harnessing it and using the passion behind that anger. And this is where it gets really, really juicy. Because here's the thing, that pain, so that anger turned into pain, it's driven by thoughts of helplessness. It's driven by this thought of, I can't do anything about this. I can't express this. I can't, I shouldn't, I can't. All these words that hold us back and leave us in this space of helplessness. So that anger that just wants to be expressed, wants to be used, gets pulled inward and then eats away inside of us. But if we allow it to become power, it's then driven by thoughts of action. What do I do with this anger? How can I use this? And all of a sudden, you're not in this place of helplessness, you're in this place of action. But the really interesting thing is when it gets stuck in between. So when you're stuck in this space where you're kind of helpless about it, those thoughts of I can't are there. And yet there's another part of you going, I want to take action. There's a purpose to this. I need to use it. When we get stuck in between, it becomes bitterness. And it's this place, that bit in between, that bitterness. That is when anger becomes dangerous, because there's a part of us trying to hold it back. There's a part of us wanting to release it. And that bitterness in between fights until it is expressed in explosive bursts and becomes hurtful and dangerous. So as I go through the next bit, keep that in mind, that I don't want you stuck in this middle space as well, because that middle space hurts others and that is not safe for anybody. So how do we then move through from this pain and into this really powerful, passionate part of ourselves? So the first thing we need to do is accept what you do and don't have control over. And I think this was one of my hardest lessons I've had to learn, and I'm repeatedly reminded of it over and over again. The only thing you have control over in the entire world is you. And I know people fight me on this. I fight myself on it over and over again. At the end of the day, you can't control what somebody else does. You can't control how they're thinking, how they react. You can't control anything, even with your children. You cannot control them. They're their own people, their own thought processes, their own emotions. They do their own thing at the end of the day. The only person you have control over, the only thing in the world you have control over is yourself. So once you've accepted that anger becomes your responsibility. You have to do something about it. It is not somebody else making you angry. You are feeling angry within yourself. That situation may have raised the anger, but it's not their fault that you are angry. Take responsibility for that emotion. So that's the very first thing you need to do. Now, the second thing is you need to move through the first 3 stages of self. Excuse me, guys, I'm a bit croaky this morning. So yes, you've got to move through your first 3 stages of self, which is your princess, your mother goddess, and then into your wild woman. So with this, the princess, mother goddess, and wild woman, they're the first 3 steps of an emotional cycle that brings us back to this place of self-empowerment. So that princess is where we're stuck in that pain, where we've got that fear, that helplessness driving us. I can't do this. I can't. That princess really pulls into herself. And it's a horrible, horrible place to be in. And really, if you look at most teenagers, they are in their princess. They want to be out in the world. They want to be expressing themselves. But this whole I can't, this fear, this helplessness kind of makes them pull in within themselves. And then we end up with the emos and all of that phase of our wonderful, wonderful life. But once we're in that place and we can take self-responsibility and go, oh, actually, this pain is my responsibility. It wasn't them that did it. This is me. I am angry. I've allowed this to become pain. Then we can take the next step forward. That next step is our mother goddess. And I love this part of our stages of self because she's that nurturing part of ourselves. We can look at our princess, our inner princess. We can look at our fear. We can look at our pain and go, how do I nurture this? How do I show her some love? And the key there is forgiveness. Looking at our own pain and going, I forgive you for being angry. I forgive myself for reacting in that way to this particular situation and allowing this anger to rise. It is not a bad part because that's where the shame and guilt comes in. That shame and guilt holds us back. It makes us feel wrong. But the mother goddess steps up with her loving, compassionate nature and goes, no, that's normal. And when we can embrace that, we can forgive ourselves. And that forgiveness makes the bitterness just dissolve into nothing. Just awesome. Because once we've gotten to that place of forgiveness and we can love ourselves for the fact we are having this emotional reaction, then we can move into the wild woman. And the wild woman is so cool because she is strong, she's powerful, she's self-reliant above all else. And it's in that self-reliance that self-belief is born. And from that self-belief, that's where the passion and power comes because the mindset changes. She's no longer stuck in the princess of I can't, I'm helpless, this hurts. She's now in this really strong, powerful stage of I'm angry. I'm allowed to be angry, but what do I do with this? I can do something with it. I am able to move forward. I can do something from this anger. And that's where that wild woman is so, so powerful, being able to move through these stages and get to that point where that self-belief kicks in and you go, I am able to do something with this emotion without guilt or shame holding you back. Now, what I've learnt most from my anger, and I will completely admit, I am a very angry person at times, but I have learnt how to harness it and use it to fuel that passion, fuel my self-belief more than anything else. So what I've learned is that anger needs to flow. Like all our emotions, they need to flow. The moment they are stagnant and held within, they become self-destructive. And self-destruction does not serve anybody. So our emotions need to be released, especially anger. But if it's released without control, it becomes hurtful. So we must step into that place where our emotions can flow, our anger can flow, but we have to do it with awareness and forgiveness for the fact we're angry. And when we can do that, it becomes powerful, which is so, so cool. Now, if you are angry and you are struggling with this, please reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you about it, because the anger, the underlying anger that women experience really fires me up. We've had so many movements throughout history where women have stood up and said enough collectively because they've been angry. But I really feel we're now at a point in society where we can stand up as women and use that from within, rather than pushing it out into the world saying you have to change. Because at the end of the day, we can't control what goes on out there. We can only control what goes on in here. So if we change from that place of anger, then the world changes too. Now, next week, same time, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, right here, wherever you're watching this video, I'm going to be looking at how do you maintain patience when you're pushed to the limits and you can't remove yourself from the situation. So beautiful, beautiful question from one of my gorgeous Darling You Are Magical community, which I cannot wait to go deep into. There's so much juicy stuff in that, isn't there? Now, if you have any questions that you would like me to look at in an Ask Melly segment, please feel free to put it in the comments here. PM me if you want, send me an email, whichever way you prefer to get in contact. Let me know what your questions are that you would like me to answer, and it may just come up in the next Ask Melly segment. Love and kindness, everyone. Mwah.